Hey everyone, welcome back to OCD Recovery's YouTube channel. I am bringing you another video about ROCD. And my goal in this video is to help you take away how to recover from ROCD, what beliefs make ROCD stick, why educating yourself is so important and where these beliefs come from, and the compulsions and avoidance behaviors that go into it. When I'm doing these outline videos, I am going to give you a goal of what I want to cover in the beginning. That way you have an idea of where we're going to go in the video. Because there's a lot to cover when it comes to ROCD, and it usually needs many, many videos to look at all of the different types of beliefs, the fears of being rejected, the fears of being alone, the fears of not being in love. But before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button, comment down below. Love speaking about ROCD. Unfortunately, there's a lot of myths out there surrounding marriage and monogamy and why open relationships are terrible, where these beliefs stem from. We can break all that down. If you're interested in our coaching services, please email info@ocdrecovery.com, where they can give you all sorts of information about the coaching and webinar services, which comes along with the WhatsApp groups. So let's jump right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is what is ROCD, as I covered in my last ROCD video, where I believe it comes from, and why I think these fears are sticky. So if you look at, let's say, 1000 AD, right? Or let's say 500 BC to 1000 AD, a 1500-year time frame. More than likely, the biggest forms of OCD were probably scrupulosity, religious OCD, morality, fears of going to hell, because those were the big societal beliefs of the day. Now we have so many irrational beliefs surrounding marriage that it's understandable with social media why these things stick. So the things I really wrote down that I wanted to talk about was, well, first of all, what does dogma mean? Dogmatic. Dogmatic means a widely held belief system that's not factual and can't be backed by anything scientifically. Unfortunately, religion fits that perspective. Certain marriage doctrine, a lot of marriage actually fits that. It's important to cover this real quick, that doesn't mean you can't have faith and believe in something, but it's the dogmatic. I absolutely know for sure that God is real. That can be broken down through disputing very, very properly. Instead of saying, hey, I want to be with the one and all these things, it's when you say, I know there's one out there for me. Those strong overgeneralization, black and white belief systems get people stuck. When you're going through and realizing why ROCD probably sticks, it's important to accept that more than likely, because most people move with the mob and crowd mentality and they don't really want to go any superficial compared to what the crowd thinks. I always talk about, you have this, let's say, you have this apple with a core in the center. Most people are staying like right at the surface, because the surface, the belief systems, thinking what the crowd is safe. They're afraid to go against the crowd. But once you start going and seeing things from really what they are, that reality standpoint, you start to realize how nonsensical so many of these belief systems that we hold as a society, especially based around ROCD. So again, marriage and monogamy belief systems comes from religion. It comes from societal beliefs. It comes from passed down belief systems from religion, from day to day, century to century to century. And just because thousands of people, I've heard this quote a lot, if many people believe something, you want to be skeptical that you're wrong. And I disagree with that. The reason why I disagree with that is, from my experience, the crowd is almost always wrong. Almost always, from the perspective of rational thinking and stoicism. If it wasn't that way, more people would be more calm, their emotions would be under control, and the way they see marriage and ROCD wouldn't stick as much, because they would see it in a much more rational perspective. So that's kind of where ROCD comes from. And remember, ROCD is not just intimate relationship OCD. It's intimate, brother, sister, parents, friends, dogs, strangers, your coworkers at work. It's important to realize that a lot of people, which we'll talk about this, will just avoid intimate relationships. It will just latch on in another way. You can't outfool OCD by avoiding. It's important to cover that. Now, these are the main beliefs that I wrote down for this particular video, although there are many other beliefs outside of this. Belief number one is, it's terrible not to know if I'm in the right relationship. Belief number two, I can't stand being rejected or being alone. Belief number three, it's terrible not to know that if I'm in love or feel in love. Remember, it's about feeling in love. ROCD sufferers are desperately trying to search and feel that love. And the more you try to hold on to those feelings of love, the harder it'll elude you. And then anything in the past. It's horrible to know whether I cheated or not, that false memory real event. It's horrible to know whether my partner may have cheated in the past. Unconditional other acceptance. So these are the ones I want to focus on. And the reason why I brought up the cheating one is we are going to break down cheating in this video too, which kind of goes into retroactive jealousy. And a lot of people are always asking me, how do you break down cheating relating fears? And cheating relating fears come all the way back to religion, dogmatic beliefs, people wanting control, and all these other things. Again, I'm not agreeing with cheating as a behavioral action for the most part. I can understand why people do it, and we'll break that down. So inside of these belief systems, there are compulsions and avoidance behaviors that are always present. When many people say something like, oh, I have puro, there's no such thing as puro. There's no such thing as obsessions. Even really, to be completely honest, most people who say, well, it's obsessions with just mental rumination, I disagree. If I was to follow you around for a week and watch every movement you make, you have avoidance behaviors and you do have outward compulsions that you just don't realize are connected with your OCD. To the untrained eye, it's very easy to miss, but puro, the term is not good, especially when it's relating to ROCD, because I have heard people talk about that. So the common compulsions, right? Looking for reassurance. Do you love me? How do I know if I'm in love with you? Looking for reassurance from your partner, looking for reassurance for yourself, self-reassuring statements, and getting reassurance from the person you're working with and maybe your family. Now, it also is important to realize that you cannot stop other people from giving you reassurance. You don't have to accept that. But if you're outwardly looking for that reassurance, that's really where the problems lie. Checking and scrolling, looking at old pictures, looking at social media posts. 10 ways to know if we're in love. 6 ways to know if you're with the right person. 10 ways to know if your partner's a narcissist. 5 ways to know if you're being gaslighted. Garbage. All those posts are garbage. There's no knowledge to be found in any of those posts. It's okay, let's not be black and white. Some maybe, but 99.9% of the time they're just terrible posts. And not even for ROCD sufferers, people that think they have codependency, which is what I like to call the ROCD of non-sufferers, same thing, irrational beliefs, and even just marriage in general. The reason why there can't be like something like the one, for an example, the one is so easy to be broken down. If you were born in Iraq and you were born into a Muslim type of, culture, the one that you would marry would be different than the one that you would marry in, say, California. So there can't be the one. The one is very easy to break down. They're just people coming together for different reasons, but there's no such thing as a spiritual one from a rational Stoic perspective that we can prove. And that is important and probably very triggering to hear, but it's very good to hear. Proving oneself to the other person is another big compulsive behavior. Trying to look really pretty, always trying to look good on Instagram, always trying to make the relationship look better, always trying to make it look better to your friends and family, want the best house, the best cars, and all these other things. These are just some of the main ones, but there's a million other ones trying to prove why you're in love. A lot of proving. And the avoidance behaviors, and avoidance and compulsive behaviors are basically the same thing. But outward avoidance behaviors is avoiding dating in general, getting married, having kids, going on vacation, having intimacy or cuddling, avoiding certain convos, avoiding being around people who are married, avoiding hearing people talk about marriages. A lot of people with ROCD will unfortunately think, well, I just won't date, and then ROCD will go away. And it seems like it goes away until it lashes onto a family member or a friend, or until it morphs and turns into, say, a harm OCD, existential POCD, sensory motor. If OCD could just be fooled with, I'm not going to date, then we would just avoid a certain thing and never suffer again, but we know that's not true. So that's basically the anatomy background of ROCD and what it is, main beliefs, compulsions, and avoidance. I implore you, when you're doing your homework, right, your disputing homework from the first book on the reading list, so this one right here, when you get to page 96 and 97, which is the dip sheet, where it talks about your major unhelpful behaviors, make a list, write it down, say, okay, these are the unhealthy behaviors I include with social avoidance, not taking care of yourself, not resting, not exercising, being aggressive with my partner, etc., etc., etc. So this book will be really good to intertwine when you're doing your homework. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is cheating. So cheating, the beliefs of cheating are stemmed from religion, cultural beliefs, and societal beliefs that are passed down. Now, this is important to say that cheating is not the healthiest behavior. Because usually when people are cheating, there has to be acts of deception, acts of lying. It's just really not a productive goal. But I could see why some people cheat. Maybe a female's in a relationship. She doesn't know how to work on her assertiveness skills. And the only way that she can get that outlet is by cheating. Do I agree with that? No. Is it understandable? Yes. Cheating doesn't make you a terrible person. It just makes you a person that did an act that's probably not healthy. Now, monogamy comes from religion as well. If you really look at where all of the control factors come from, religion is a major form, if not the most major form of control. Again, I'm not saying whether you can have faith or not. I have to reiterate that because so many people say, you're telling people not to have faith. No, I'm just breaking down the realities of religion. A good thing is this. When you're obese, you're not healthy. That doesn't mean you can't accept yourself, but a good goal, in my opinion, would be to get healthier in a non-compulsive, balanced way. But people will say, I'm obese and I'm healthy. You're not healthy. You're not healthy. You're not healthy, and that's okay. And we have many markers of health, but having, 45% body fat is not health, but that doesn't mean you can't accept yourself. Cheating itself, the behavior is usually not good for most part, leads to carries over into other things. I know from personal experience, but it doesn't mean I'm a terrible person. So breaking this down philosophically through the most basic sense of rational thinking and REBT principles from Ellis, Stoicism is key. Now, the monogamy aspect of it, I do not think monogamy is best for everyone. I don't think that marriage is more optimal than not being married for most people. And I don't think most people having kids is the best thing. Many people have kids get married because that's what everyone thinks in their lives. This is the harsh reality. Most people get married, have a couple kids, white picket fence, don't really do much, and die. That's not a life that I'm willing to live, personally. If you want to live that life, that's great. That's not a life that I want to live. So when you don't want to go with the crowd, people will judge and put you down. That's the natural reaction. Because most people at the time, they can learn how to, don't have the capabilities of this type of rational thinking. A, holding this against them for not understanding doesn't make sense. And B, thinking that they will understand, it doesn't make sense either, because which is the same thing. If someone acts a certain way, this is a Stoic quote and a Taoism quote, to think that they're going to act any differently is an act of the action of insanity, per se. I'm not saying, losing your mind in the OCD sense, because they're going to act that way because that's where their beliefs are right now. It took me years to change these belief systems. I was having a call the other day with someone, and they were talking about being in an open relationship. A little bit of fears in there as well. And I was saying that being in an open relationship is probably great for many people. Maybe someone's a business owner and doesn't want to have to settle down and they want to dedicate their life to work. And maybe it's better to have an open relationship. I don't see any extra benefit in my life to having children since I tend to work a lot. I like working. I like other experiences. If people want to have children, that's great for them. People always say to me, oh, you're missing out on life. I say, well, you're missing out on life too, because when you go to the grocery store at 11 o'clock in the morning, you look miserable and you're screaming at your children. But that's part of the process, hardships, ups and downs. So this belief system can go back and forth. I can see both ways. So again, cheating will need to be broken down with the principles from this book, Unconditional Self-Life and Other Acceptance, and that will be key. Now, let's go into the summary of how you're going to recover in long periods of time. Let's look at like a 2-year time frame. Let's say you come in to speak to me in a coaching call and you have serious OCD. You're moving with uncertainty. You've dumped some exposures, but it's still pretty latched. Number one is educating yourself on how it works. One of the best things you can do in life is educating yourself. If you want to learn how to trade in the stock market, educating yourself on that. If you want to learn how to build a salon business, educating on the ins and outs of that. If you want to go to law school, you have to learn the law. If you want to recover from OCD and anxiety, you have to learn the practical application of how OCD operates. Why thoughts are thoughts doesn't work for primary recovery. Why exposures aren't the main tools. We have all sorts of videos on that on our playlists. We just hit 1 million views, which is amazing. Congratulations to all of us. All the moderators, thank you, Rob, for the platform. Speaking to all of you, all the listeners, I forgot about that. That's amazing. Decreasing compulsions and avoidance. If you even leave 1 or 2 small ones, they'll eventually become the big ones. And if they're related to your fears, no compulsions and avoidance behaviors can exist relating to your OCD fears. That is a fact. If anyone is telling you otherwise, it's a misunderstanding of OCD. working on your beliefs. The beliefs we mentioned before. It's terrible not to know if I'm in the right relationship. I can't stand being rejected or being alone. It's terrible not to know if I'm in love or feel in love. Then the retroactive jealousy and cheating. And then time and patience. Look at recovery as a large-scale thing, as a larger journey. It's very hard to do, and it will take time, and you will get this wrong. I've made thousands of mistakes on my OCD recovery journey. I was arrogant. I thought I was better after 6 months. I didn't think exposures... I thought exposures would do more for me when it really wasn't the case, more so than others. I wasn't that patient. I didn't want to listen to other people. I didn't want to imply compassion. So thank you so much for watching this video. Again, if you want to learn more about this, we have an ROCD playlists. And if you're interested in our coaching and webinar services, please email info@ocdrecovery.com and comment down below. We can talk about this, whether you agree with me or not. That's fine. Remember, I'm always open to a good discussion. I'll end the video with this. I mean, Rob and I really like Ray Dalio, hedge fund manager who has a company called Bridgewater, and he always talks about radical open-mindedness and being able to have thoughtful disagreements. Remember, agreement doesn't mean acceptance, and that's key for life. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.